Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us for today's edition of Alaska Weather. On the satellite imagery, three areas producing weather. One obvious one is here off the southeast coast with that area of clouds moving in, kind of a circulation here with the low center back to the west, but the heaviest precipitation falling over the southern areas, and even those amounts weren't all that great, ranging from 2 to maybe half an inch in some areas. Ketchikan picking about 2/10 of an inch, and up here to the north, some rain falling as well. Temperatures in the 30s, and some cooler air following that in behind. Up here to the north, band of snow, winter storm warning out until 9 p.m. this evening for the Koyukuk Valley. Picked up anywhere from 3 to 6 inches of snow. Bettles 18 inches on the ground at 4 p.m. And that trails on back into the McGrath area, where they picked up anywhere from 1 to 3 inches in that general area back there. They had about a 0.13 water equivalent if it had fallen as rain. And then a break behind that right through here. And then the next system spreading clouds and an increase in the winds along with warmer temperatures. The main low center of this system way back here northwest of Attu Island. And the front appeared to be right through here, and then some banding of the moisture on back with the leading edge of the colder air aloft right through there. And then the open cell queue with the more unstable conditions back toward the western Aleutians. And that all really shifting off to the north while this begins to slip off to the east-southeast. And this will gradually, slowly move eastward. Some pretty good high pressure will build in at the surface with the colder temperatures back up to the north and west there over the next couple of days, but the entire pattern will continue to gradually move eastward. But this system here increasing the winds, quite a gradient with that, with the building pressures that'll end up over northwest Canada, and the low back here to the west, ahead of the front, looking at high wind watches out for the Bristol Bay zone for Monday, during the day Monday, and could see winds 50, 60, in some cases gusts 75 miles per hour, but that's a watch, not a warning. It means conditions could develop that could bring winds that strong. Have to wait and see. Definitely there'll be an increase in the winds here, gales for sure along the coast from the Alaska Peninsula all the way up to St. Lawrence Island, where there's a winter storm warning continues out for blizzard conditions at times tonight and through the day Saturday, and then that winter storm warning for the Koyukuk Valley, as I mentioned, that's due to end at 9 p.m. And you can see the remnant clouds here swinging through south central Alaska early with diminishing conditions, but lower top clouds, the higher clouds moving through. Still a few clouds around, but dry conditions in advance of that system. On the chart today, here's a low center off the southeast coast, and that'll be moving eastward, rain and snow on up into Canada, and then some areas of flurries here over the interior, but this band right here, that's where the heaviest snow occurred. And then the next system and the tightening gradient there ahead of the front. And then again, back with the main low center there, bringing storm warnings possibly to the western Aleutians tonight and maybe into tomorrow, but the front here initially not all that active as it moves eastward, bringing some rain, increasing rain chances there to the Fox Islands, up to the Pribilofs. Rain today probably continuing, then tapering off, becoming a little more showery here later on tonight. Mixed conditions up in this area, and then just snow and blowing snow there from the Yukon Delta out across St. Lawrence Island, where the winter storm warning is at. High pressure settles in right over the central Arctic coast, almost on top of Barrow there, or Wainwright, and moisture with the upper trough slipping off to the east. And we'll see areas of snow or snow showers through this region, ending over the Koyukuk Valley. Look for some pretty good clearing here with the northwest part of the state, but a lot of mid and high level moisture will be streaming northward eventually even across the Seward Peninsula and on up into the Kotzebue Sound area. Otherwise, increasing winds, but dry for the Alaska Peninsula with improving conditions here over south central Alaska. Still lingering snow showers there in the Susitna Valley, more likely though along the Alaska Range. And then tomorrow, drying conditions, but there will be, especially early in the day, showers lingering, snow showers there over the eastern part of the central southeast coast. And that may linger into most of the afternoon down over the southern areas, but drying out and winds increasing there, Lincoln Glacier Bay, and also over the northern inside water areas, more northeasterly, offshore flow. That should lead to some clearing. Variably cloudy to mostly clear here over southern Alaska. Still have a band of moisture with some scattered snow showers there, kind of in between the two high centers, the one up there along the eastern Arctic coast and then the one over the Yukon. And there's a trough right through this region here, and then the southeast winds tending to lift this northward. And so kind of a persistent area of clouds and some very light snow with that extending all the way back to eastern Norton Sound. And then the precipitation with the main frontal boundary right through here. Rain for the Alaska Peninsula becomes mixed somewhere in here, which could include some freezing rain, but mostly snow here from the delta up across St. Lawrence Island. And then a big area of low pressure holding out there way out to the west, so south-southwest flow. So scattered rain and snow showers tending to become a little more in the form of snow, with the colder air back out with the low center wrapping in back around. And the outlook for Sunday, that low hangs back out there and weakens, develops another front, but the air mass so cold out here that probably see snow levels down to sea level. So mostly snow for Shemya over to Amchitka, but it could be a dry day here with light winds across Adak and Atka. Even the Fox Islands looking pretty good there with variable clouds, dry conditions, east winds, high pressure over the southeast Bering Sea with this front pushing eastward, but really not caught up in the flow here from the southeast, so won't be making much headway to the east. The low center up over the Bering Strait there, so a lot of snow and blowing snow conditions, especially across the Seward Peninsula. There you can see quite a gradient. You can see gusts over 50 miles per hour with this packing of the gradient, especially along and in advance of the front. Windy conditions in the central interior all the way up to the Arctic coast. In fact, probably see gale force winds there along a fair portion of the coastline all the way down, and again even gale force winds here with that low center from the southeast. And really breezy conditions along the Alaska Range. Probably see those winds gusting over 40 miles an hour through the eastern passes, and also good winds on the increase here for south central Alaska, and as I mentioned for Bristol Bay. And for the southeast coast, looks pretty dry. Strong high pressure here, 1,051 millibars. That's just over 31 inches for an altimeter. Temperatures today there with the rain and clouds in the upper 30s, just about all areas. 30 degrees in Cordova today with 12 at Gulkana. Anchorage at 34, 38 in Homer. Same thing in AKwx, as well as Kodiak with the Tanana Valley, lower 20s. Just 9 degrees there at Delta with 17 at Eagle. Fort Yukon had 5 above, and Bettles was at 19. Eastern Arctic coast temperatures were a little milder than the central coast, with -4 at Kaktovik and 10 below at Barrow. Generally a little below zero here up over much of the northwest part of the state, where the colder air is. Unalakleet or St. Michael down to -4, -7 at Nome, and 31 there at McGrath with a 14 down at Bethel. St. Lawrence Island, kind of chilly there, Gamble at 5 above, and 5 degrees also at St. Mary's with a 30-degree reading there at Iliamna. And Cape Newnham at 30 degrees, that's Bethel with 14, 15 over at Macoriac, and 41 at St. George, about the same in St. Paul. Lower 40s for the Alaska Peninsula, cooler up toward Bristol Bay, lower to mid-30s, and mid to upper 30s out over the Aleutians. And for the lows tonight, coldest up over the northwest and north slope areas, with temperatures dropping down to maybe a little under 20 below zero, but mostly in the 10 to 20 below range. Some areas a little milder, and right around single numbers for the Yukon Delta coast. with 0 degrees to 13 below, kind of a range here through the central interior. Mildest conditions, 20s over the southwest interior, upper 30s for the Aleutians, or for the Perblofs and the eastern Aleutians, a little cooler out to the west and the southeast there, upper 20s to upper 30s. And for tomorrow, 30s and lower 40s for the Panhandle, with mid to upper 30s here over the southwest part of the state. That mild flow coming up, keeping highs in the 40s for the Pribilofs again, and the Alaska Peninsula. Coldest up here over the north slope to the Arctic coast, highs 10 to 15 below. Single numbers over the 40-mile country into the Copper River Basin for flying weather. Should become, could be some marginal VFR here to start with over the eastern part of the southeast coast, and that'll linger possibly into the late morning over the southern areas, but should definitely trend toward VFR everywhere else. Much of the interior here becoming VFR. This map drawn for tomorrow afternoon, about 3 to 4 p.m. And the eastern Arctic coast, some IF or lingering marginal VFR there, some of that extending down a little farther earlier in the day into the interior, and then VFR, and then that area of IFR here from the Bering Strait. And of course, St. Lawrence Island, there's that winter storm warning out down to Nunivak Island and along the Alaska Peninsula there, but really doesn't make much headway inland. And then break behind that, and then more IFR with the main low center. Passes look something like this, open for Anaktuvuk for the Berks Range and Adigan, both entrances. Lake Clark, western approaches VFR through the pass VFR, as well as the east side. Rainy, same forecast, windy, good VFR. Isabel, VFR, and Mentasta also. For Tanita, VFR, and I believe all the passes are VFR. Portage, same thing. Chilkoot and White also VFR. Freezing levels here south, mild southerly and southeasterly flow, pulling that all the way up to the Seward Peninsula, 4,000 feet in over the southwest interior, and then lowering freezing levels here over the eastern part, or the southeast coast and eastern interior, where they're not really that high now, and then back down to low conditions over the Bering Sea. And for icing, best threat here of any moderate rime stuff will be along the Alaska Peninsula areas, but that moisture streaming northward could bring some light, isolated, moderate rime icing below 11,000 feet all the way into the Bering Strait, and then some scattered stuff, and then other band out, way out over the western Aleutians. Remainder Alaska, pretty icing free. And showing ridging tomorrow here, building up into the interior with the storminess out here over the Bering Sea, and the jet stream now pretty good, 130 knots there coming across the southwest coast. Jet stream wind max up and over the ridge, and then northwest flow. Colder temperatures back through here, some of that trying to filter into the southeast coast there, and of course across the eastern interior. This is going to develop a pretty strong surface ridge over the eastern interior, and as I mentioned, northwest Canada over the next couple of days. 9,000 feet, pretty strong southeasterlies, 40 to 50 knots here out of the Pacific, right across Bristol Bay, the southwest coast, on up into the northern Bering, St. Lawrence Island, and even pretty gusty all the way to the western Arctic coast, and then under high pressure really dropping off and turning northwest, 20 to 30 along the Panhandle. 3,000 feet, looking something like this, about like 9,000 feet with this low center way out here to the west. South to north flow across the Bering, 50-knot winds, one max speed right through here, 45 to 50 knots. Drops off behind the front and then picks up again with the main low center back up to the 35 to 40 knot range, and then light, more variable winds over the interior to the Arctic coast, kind of brisk up here along the western areas and northwest part of the state, and then turning northwest at about 30 knots here along the central and south coast, lighter inland, and that wind max will be sliding southeastward, and they'll be lightening up there as this entire area high pressure slowly shifts eastward over the next couple of days. And turbulence-wise, mechanical, moderate chop, northern Panhandle, Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay areas, and really anywhere over the southeast coast there with the gustiness of the winds. Alaska Peninsula, lee side, could be moderate chop. Right now, leave the severe out with pretty good area here over the southwest coast and Nunivak Island up to about Bethel and Amonic, St. Lawrence Island, Bering Strait, and northern Seward Peninsula, as well as the western Arctic coast. Pretty smooth eastern Arctic coast down into the eastern Tanana Valley, but those winds again beginning to increase, especially on Monday or tomorrow night and Monday here. So this area will be expanding eastward at that time, a breakout here over the Bering Sea, and then some more bumpiness due to the gusty winds out over the far western Aleutians. And after hangar flying, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Hangar Flying. I'm Mary O'Connor with the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation. When I'm not filming Hangar Flying, I manage the Aviation Safety Program at the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health here in Anchorage. Working in safety, it's great to see someone who is so dedicated to aviation safety and survival if things go badly. We're continuing our series of survival preparedness with experts from Learn to Return training systems. Brian Horner is the director at Learn to Return. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you for having me back again, Mary.
We talked on our earlier shows about some options to help people survive a crash, underwater, cold immersion, and then how to survive until they're rescued. Can you tell us about some tools or equipment that might help pilots or their passengers in these circumstances?
Yeah, you're right. I've had two of my instructors on hangar flying helping to try to give some advice on both of those very specific areas. And I know that they always enhance their speaking by talking about training, because we're a training company. But I'm actually going to talk about something that's not training. It's gear. Because there's only so much really we can do, even in our short time with students. And really, certain technology advancements have been brought about that can help people flying in Alaska, or anywhere actually where there's cold water.
So I see you've got some gear here.
I have brought some, yeah.
Can you show us how it works and what circumstances it might be used in?
Well, the biggest problem for us to try to overcome in underwater escape, and also in a smoke-filled cabin, is we can't hold our breath long enough. We can't hold our breath long enough to get to the ground during a smoke-filled cabin, and we can't hold our breath long enough underwater normally in cold water. So we can carry something now that can be a breath of air, and in fact, sometimes it can be 20 breaths of air underwater. That technology is based on the old scuba devices that we've seen for years, all the way from Lloyd Bridges, if you're my age, to some of the James Bond flicks that are out now. And this small device here can be carried by a normal person in their aircraft, either a fixed wing or helicopter. And this, when deployed before they go underwater, or underwater even, can be cleared, can be breathed on, and can give you 20 or more breaths underwater to get yourself out or other people.
Is it difficult to learn how to use it?
Because it's based on normal scuba, and there are many people who are already scuba trained, if you've already had a scuba class, you're already halfway there. But even if you're not trained, we use a step-by-step program that not only builds upon your underwater aircraft training that we do with you, but now adds this device on as a second kind of adjunct. So it's really not that hard to learn.
Okay. And this might come in handy for somebody who is, say, in the back seat of an aircraft?
Yeah, in fact, you're exactly right that we can get a lot of people out of the front seat close to a door with our training programs pretty well. And we can even get people on that second seat out of their aircraft. But once you get past that certain longer distance to the door, it's going to be too far to get out on one breath of air, but it's also going to be too hard to get other people out who can't hold their breaths. And that would be your children, your husband, or your wife who are too far from the door and can't hold the breath. This device gives you time to stay in the cockpit, to clear more obstacles from those people, or even for you to stay in longer and pull them out with you as you leave.
So if you could recommend one piece of survival equipment for pilots and passengers flying in the winter in Alaska, what would it be?
Well, these devices here, whether it be a big one like this or one that you wear on a vest, but like right there on your body, very small, okay? These, first off, fit the model of smallness. And we've got to really think about egressing your aircraft in emergency if you have to, which is water, and that small percentage of time that it may burn. So the things have to be extremely small first, and that puts a limitation on things. If you're really looking for early rescue, you need electronics. You need some type of device that's going to send a message out to people, like a portable personal locator beacon. And it's not just a message of, I need help, it's a message of where I am. And there is even new technology here, like this DeLorme device that many people ask me about, that not only is going to tell them where you're at, but again allows you to give them very detailed information on what the condition is. Your normal beacons don't do that. They tell people, I need help, this is where I'm at, but this actually says what kind of help I need. And that's revolutionizing post-crash survival and getting rescued people.
That's great. So we've got the basic with I need help now to here's where I am and what's going on with the situation.
Yeah.
So if people are interested in learning about Learn to Return training, I heard there's an option for free class nights?
There is, and in fact there's many options at the survival school now for people to take advantage of getting training, including free training every quarter on a Wednesday night. Just check our website at survivaltraining.com. And you can bring your family to get bear defense training. You can bring your family to get aviation training. So there's many different things we can cover, just again, free of charge for the public.
Great, thank you for that information.
And we'd love to come to any business to give them a lecture as well on how to be safer.
Very good. Brian, thank you so much for coming to Hangar Flying, and thank you for bringing your staff. I've enjoyed having all of you here. It's been a real pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for supporting Alaska Public Media and the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation. Until next time, fly safely and be the one that comes home.
Welcome back. Well, winds here following the system moving through the southern part of the Panhandle tonight, followed by more of a north-northwest wind here, especially along the coast, getting a little brisk on the south coast, and also picking up through Lincoln Island Glacier Bay, turning north to northeast, 20 to 25 knots over the central and southern inside waters, and then back up to 25 possibly here on the north coast. Higher gusts all areas into Sunday. Still 30. Small craft advisories here over the inside waters in areas, higher gusts, and about that 20 to 25 knot range on average, with much stronger gusts coming out of the bays here. And for south central Alaska, Prince William Sound, light northeasterly, same thing for Cook Inlet tomorrow. About 15 knots down into Kamishak Bay, Shelikof Strait. Small craft advisories there, east side of Kodiak Island. Easterlies at 20. For the North Gulf Coast and the Barren Islands. And then on Sunday, those winds really pick up, especially in the afternoon with that tightening gradient ahead of that front trying to push eastward. Full gales here for the Barren Islands, Kodiak Island, about 30 knots out of the east for Shelikof Strait. You can see pretty good gales here from Kamishak Bay extending all along the North Gulf Coast. And those winds for Prince William Sound, 15 knots, but stronger out toward the mid-sound area in the southern part, probably more in that 25 to 30 knot range. Cook Inlet, north of the Forelands, northeast 20, and then south, bring it up to about 30 knots. It definitely trended upward as you head south. For the Bristol Bay zone, gales tomorrow, southwest of Kodiak Island, gales also, and 25 to 35 knot southeasterlies here blowing across the Alaska Peninsula. Outlook for Sunday. Gales for Bristol Bay right out of the east, and southeast 40 here from Sitkinak over to Chignik, maybe Sand Point, but actually then they take a turn to from the northeast at about 35 knots there, and 25 knot northeasterlies here on the Bering Sea side. And out in the Aleutians, Fox Island, southerlies 10 to 20 knots, south to southwest 20 knots, and then you get into the gales here west of Adak that extend all the way out to Shimia, 45 knots. Those come down tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, and Sunday to small craft advisories with really light winds here through the west central areas, and then more of a northeast direction, east-northeast, 15 to 25 here for the Fox Islands. Small craft advisories likely down in this area on the southern side with lighter winds on the Bering Sea side of the islands. And for the southwest coast, south of Nunivak Island, southerlies 25, easterlies on the north side, and pretty brisk here across the northern Bering Sea. St. Lawrence Island, east-northeast 35 knots, or 30 knots, southerlies at 35 for the Perbilofs. And then those, as a low tracks in across the Bering Sea, Sunday, they'll swing around to the southwest at 25 knots there for St. Lawrence Island. Otherwise, still looking at southeasterlies here west of St. Matthew Island at about 30, with small craft advisories as another front approaches the Pribilofs. And southwest coast, so lighter winds east, south of Nunivak Island, Kuskokwim Bay at about 10 knots. And from the 25 here, that's sliding down to about 15 knots along the Yukon Delta coastline south of Hooper Bay. And for the eastern Arctic coast, light variable winds under high pressure tomorrow, gradually increasing here as you head west, and especially as you get down toward Point Ley, where there'll be about 30 knots, small or brisk wind advisories there, all the way down to the Bering Strait tomorrow. And then gales on Sunday here, 35-knot winds from the Bering Strait right up across those western capes to maybe Point Ley, and then they drop back to small craft advisories for the western or up to the central coast, and then back into gale force easterlies there on the east side. For tonight, again, rain changing to rain and snow, with all snow in some areas up here, but drying out, precipitation ending as that happens, with lingering snow showers, the Copper River Basin, a little more numerous and continuous as you get northward there with that upper disturbance, but drying out and quite cold back here to the northwest, with high pressure right over the Arctic coast. Increasing winds, again, the winter storm warning out for St. Lawrence Island as that tight gradient and the snow and blowing snow shift up to that area. Rain, though, along the front from the Pribilofs down to the Fox Islands. Dry but increasing winds for the Alaska Peninsula and Bristol Bay area, with showers out to the west. And for tomorrow, that front just about lined up, orientated right along the coast there, with gale force winds, southeasterlies, rain to rain and snow and blowing snow, and the high wind watch for Bristol Bay out until that front moves through. You can see it gets replaced with high pressure on Sunday, with the strong wind shifting to the Alaska Range, south central Alaska. Definitely a pickup in the winds. Fair but increasing winds over the eastern interior, and dry over the Panhandle. Have a great evening.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
It's never too early to set expectations and goals for your child's education. The UA College Savings Plan provides opportunities that can help you reach your educational savings goals. Save in Alaska. Study anywhere. There is more information available by calling 1-888, the number 4, and then Alaska. This message sponsored by the UA College Savings Plan.